Assalamu alaikum. Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics and one that I'm very excited to discuss with you. Korean dramas or K-dramas and why they're so addicting. Why are K-dramas so addicting? That's a question I asked myself 3 years ago. No, scratch that. 5 years ago when I got into them and just couldn't stop. K-dramas have really made its way to the US and found a home here. They're just available everywhere, honestly, and I'm in love. I'm going to go over a few reasons why I believe K-dramas are so addicting. The first reason, storyline. Storyline is what makes or breaks any television show, film that you're watching. For me, what I really like about Korean dramas, it's an innate way to keep us compelled, and they just make ridiculous storylines work. There's this one show called I'm Not a Robot, and I've told a lot of my friends about it, but it's the show about this guy who developed a human allergy. He isolates himself from the world and only hangs out with robots or his machines at home, like the vacuum cleaner. This girl is asked to go to his place and pretend to be a robot, and he basically falls in love with this girl. He doesn't show any symptoms of that allergy when he's around her. When I try explaining that idea to somebody, they look at me like I'm crazy. Even when I'm talking about it right now, it feels very weird. It doesn't feel like a story that makes sense. It doesn't feel like it can be made into any series that anybody would watch, but Korean directors made it and it works. It works really well. And there's a lot of storylines that are very crazy, but make for a really good story. They have this one drama that I also enjoy for other reasons called Duel, and that's about clones. But Korean dramas are just no joke. The first Korean show that I watched back in 2018 was a show called Doctor Stranger. It was just so good. I knew to watch Korean shows because I saw this clip of that series on Facebook. So thank you for that, Facebook. It was so heartfelt. That show was so heartfelt. There were so many emotional moments, and Korean shows tend to do that. So that leads me to reason number 2. Their use of three-dimensional characters. So the characters in Korean shows often have a lot of gray areas. They're not all black and white. Somebody who's a good guy isn't always completely 100% good, mostly with villains. I'd say most of their gray characters are along the line of villains. Their villains are not always evil or born evil. A lot of the time they were made to be that way. Just circumstances. Circumstances put them in that position to play this really bad character. And a lot of the time what I've noticed is if there's a bad character, there's usually a worse character. So they'd have a bad character who's not really bad, again, circumstance, and he has some good in him. Maybe like his something happened when he was or she was younger that made her or him do the things that they do that makes them the villain. They're not all bad. I feel bad for a lot of these villains in Korean dramas. Like, I feel so bad for them. A lot of the time, you would start the first few episodes and by like halfway there, you're like, man, this is not a bad guy. He's just in pain. He's in pain. His past has brought him here. He's just somebody she's just somebody that's really hurt and they need help. Honestly, I find that a lot in these characters. They need help. They don't need to be beat up, but they're just somebody that needs help. And then the worst characters are the ones that you're just kind of like, I hate you. I'm done with you. And they're the true villains. Back to that show Duel. And this goes with reason number 3, non-romantic relationships. Because they do so well at telling stories and portraying platonic love between characters. And that's probably one of my favorite reasons why I love watching K-dramas, because they do so great at bringing two characters, whether they're brothers or best friends, sisters. They do so well at pushing forth these relationships without it being something else. So it's not just romantic relationships, but trust me, there's a lot of romance films. There's a lot of romance-based K-dramas, which is why people love them, because of the romance. I'm not a big fan of the romance aspect of it. I'm more into the platonic love that the characters have for each other. That I love so much. That show Duel about clones have that really strong kinship between brothers. It's so weird because one of the brothers is, again, the villain. Later on, you find out he's just in pain and he suffered a lot in his lifetime and his brother wasn't there, so he hated his brother, or he was really hurt by his brother slash other clone. And he just hurt him throughout the first half of the series, or more than half of the series, until they got to the final couple episodes where he won back the audience, where he proved himself to be a good guy or have the capabilities to be a good guy. And it's just so heartbreaking. That show is so sad. I should check it out if you have the chance. One of my favorite K-drama series is the show called My Country, the New Age. And it's this historic series, like a period series. And I don't watch a lot of those, but that one I just love, again, because of the relationship between the two characters, the two male leads who are best friends. And there's a lot else involved in that, but these two characters are best friends. They're like brothers. They're so close, and yet they've hurt each other so much in the relationship and throughout that series, but they really do care about each other. The main lead is like this good guy, and the anti-hero best friend, he's always in pain. Like he's had such a bad upbringing, and it's so heartbreaking to watch, but he loves his best friend even though he did a lot of messed up stuff in that relationship. And he's always trying to protect him, again, while doing the messed up stuff that he does. But you can tell immediately, it's not hard to see that this character is not a bad person, but he's under a lot of bad circumstances. And then maybe sometimes his goals that he had were probably not in his best interest. You find a lot of character development in this relationship. Honestly, I could just talk about it all day, but I think that show is worth a watch if you ever get a chance to or are interested in watching Korean dramas, K-dramas, please check that out. Reason number 4, these directors and these writers just know how to tug at our heartstrings. They know how to get the audience's emotions riled up. The way they tell the story just perfectly aligns, and they always do it in a way that can be very emotional. They know how to get their crowd and the audience emotional. And honestly, I don't even need to reference one show. I feel like most of the Korean shows, if they're not a comedy, there's something sad or like romantic, or they have a lot of moments where it's just so emotional and it's heartbreaking, or you're just rooting for these characters so hard. And it's so difficult to see the struggles that the characters go through. But you know what? It's worth it if they have a happy ending, or even if it's a sad ending, as long as the story works out. My Country, the New Age. It was so hard to be normal after that series ended for me. I kept thinking about it because of how well the writers and the directors told that story. Of course, we're going to have people with different opinions, whether they like a series or not, but me personally, I really enjoyed it. I'm a person who skips a lot, which is probably not the best thing to do. So I did that with that show as well. But those moments that you feel something for the characters, those were always there. I always felt like I wanted these two characters to just hug and make up, and you kind of just root for that in these characters. You've invested so much time with these characters that you really want them to make it out. You want what's best for the characters, and they do that some of the time, and a lot of the time they don't. One of the negatives I will say about certain K-dramas is the endings can be very disappointing sometimes. It can be anticlimactic. But overall, I think the storyline, the setup is just great. Again, depending on the show that you're watching. Which also brings me to the end of the list at number 5, cinematography. I could not skip this part of K-dramas because the cinematography is just so clean. Asian shows or Asian television in general, they have their own style, which is usually this very blurry background, smooth skin, soft light look. I'm gonna keep referencing the show, but My Country, the New Age, I'm telling you, I love the cinematography so much in that series. And it's probably one of my favorite styles from a K-drama show film. There are K-dramas that have different vibes than other K-dramas. Some of them, if they're romantic, lighthearted, they're gonna look more soft. And some of them, like this other series that I enjoyed watching called Weak Hero Class 1. Yes. It has a more intense look. It doesn't have that whole very bright, sunny, soft look. But they all resemble each other in their depth of field, for sure, which is that blurry background. I just couldn't put anything for a reason number 5 other than like the camera style, the camera movements. Oh my god, I'm gonna keep talking about it. That show, My Country, The New Age, they have such cool camera movements. Like there's this fight scene, for example, and the best friends like flipped and the camera flipped with the best friends. So like you could tell somebody like flipped with the camera, and I was just like, what? It was so awesome. Weak Hero Class 1 has great cinematography. Again, it's a little moody, it's a little dark, but that's perfect for the story that they were telling. I would love to work on a set in Korea. That would be so cool to just see what that process looks like, and just to meet some of the cast and crew. Mostly the cast. The same actor that's in My Country, The New Age was in this series called Bloodhounds. I think it gained recognition on Netflix, but that was a really good story, and that also had great cinematography, that had great storytelling, and it had great character development. You should check it out too. I highly recommend it. It's a little more actiony. There's some gruesome scenes for those who have a bad gag reflex. But yeah, I mean, that was just my top 5 reasons why I love K-dramas. And hopefully this will give you a jump start on trying to watch one, and maybe one of the ones that I recommended, who knows. But if you like this video, please check out more to come, and I hope to keep making them as long as you're watching them. Actually, I'm gonna be making them either way. Just gonna be me venting to the camera and me talking about my own thing, whatever it is I want to talk about. So it was great talking to you guys, and hope to see you soon.